Thank you, and welcome everyone. Welcome from Tempe, Arizona, in the Sonoran Desert of the southwestern United States, where it's 7 a.m., 7:02. Good day. Welcome to this first session of a virtual workshop on public information technology, or PIT. Please use the chat function on the bottom of the screen to let us know where you're joining from and what time it is where you are. As I said, it's 7 a.m. here, it's still quite early. My name is Ryan Johnson. I lead the professional and executive education team here at Arizona State University. In a moment, I'll introduce two faculty members from ASU who will serve as the co-hosts of this two-day workshop. This workshop is going to feature some incredible keynote speakers on PIT and a number of colleagues from around the world speaking about issues of education, gender, democracy, agriculture, and other topics. Before I hand this program over to our faculty co-hosts, let me cover a few items that you'll need to know about before the event. First, this program has been made possible by the Research Technical Assistance Center at USAID, Aid for International Development. The RTAC network contains more than 900 members who are scholars and educators, researchers in the field, and other interested persons. And ASU is a proud member of RTAC, and we'd like to thank our colleagues at NORC at the University of Chicago for their partnership in this great meeting. I want to emphasize that this is not an academic conference. We're intentionally calling it a workshop, and that's for several reasons. One is that we want this to be very interactive. So please, as I said before, use the chat, tell us where you're joining us from. And please don't be shy in the networking and in the breakout rooms. This is a bit of an experiment. We're going to see how some of this virtual networking works across the world in this format. The second reason we're calling this a workshop is that no scholarly papers were required for speakers to speak here. And indeed, not everyone here in attendance is a university-based scholar. So this is an opportunity to listen and share across time zones and across levels of expertise. A few housekeeping reminders before I hand this to our faculty co-hosts. First, if you have a camera and it works, please turn it on. It's very helpful to see who you are. It's much more difficult for us to speak to either just a name on a screen or perhaps a beautiful image. We'd love to see you. And because many of us are still working remotely, if you have children or pets, it's quite okay if they're in the screen. Second, as I said before, use freely the chat for questions, comments, or you can send privately to myself, Ryan Johnson, or to my colleague, Ryan Moores. The bottom right there indicates tech support. Ryan Moores is available here live via personal chat, private chat, or through email. Finally, if you have difficulty with your video stream, we know some people do have challenges at times. You can attempt to turn off your video stream, but we would like to have it cameras on if possible. And just one final note, so you're aware, many of the sessions here today, and in all four of our sessions today and tomorrow will be recorded. Not all will, but we will give you ample notice for what is being recorded and what is not being recorded. So let me hand this now to our two faculty co-hosts, Dr. Faheem Hussain and Dr. Mary Jane Parmentier. I'm going to hand this to Dr. Mary Jane Parmentier.
Thank you, Ryan, and good morning, everybody. I'm Mary Jane Parmentier. I'm a faculty member in the School for the Future of Innovation and Society in the College of Global Futures at Arizona State University. And it's really exciting to see everybody checking in and saying where they're from. And we really appreciate, no matter what the time zone, everybody joining this workshop. And, you know, for our first keynote speaker, it's in the middle of the night for her. So really appreciate everybody sacrifice with this. Yeah, we're so excited to be guiding this workshop, exploring these two fields, public interest technology and technology and international development. These are two major fields, I would say, academic fields that we pursue in our school. We have academic programs, master's degrees, PhDs in these areas. We do a lot of curriculum sharing. We explore these topics, and we're excited to be doing this with practitioners and scholars from around the world. And I just want to reiterate what Ryan said about the interactive nature. This is why we're doing this in an open Zoom session as opposed to a webinar. And so if we've had upwards of 100 registrants, and so it's a lot of people on Zoom, but we want to give this a try just to really allow interaction. So with that, I'll hand it over to my colleague, Faheem Hussain.
Good morning to everybody. It's so exciting to see so many friendly faces. Some of them I know personally, and some of them I'm looking forward to know. Yes, as Professor Jane Parmentier said, and Ryan Johnson said, that it will be wonderful to hear your voice, to have interaction as much as we can. Unfortunately, in this new normal, the bad thing is that we are not being able to see you guys in person. But the good thing is we are reaching out to so many of you. So let's try to make the best out of it. And I'm actually truly excited in this time, it's very early here in Arizona, to introduce our keynote speaker. Both from a personal and a professional level. And let me just start with my personal thing. She's one of the person I always look up to, not just to have a chat about our academic things, but about anything. Like, she is a natural leader and an amazing person to be with. And it's a distinct honor to call her a friend, a mentor, a guide. And she is Dr. Katina Michael. It's 1 a.m. in the morning in Australia, down under, and she's up there to be with us. So formally, Dr. Katina Michael is a professor in our School of Future of Innovation in Society, and also in the School of Computing, Informatics, and Decision Systems Engineering in Arizona State University. She is the program chair of the Public Interest Technology Program that we recently launched in ASU. And she is also the director of the Center of Engineering Policy and Society. Dr. Katina Michael is also affiliated with the School of Computing and Information Technology at the University of Wollongong. She has been for the last 5 years, 2012 to 2017, IEEE Technology and Society magazine's editor-in-chief. And at present, she is the senior editor in the IEEE Consumer Electronics magazine. And more so, since 2008, she has been a board member of the Australian Privacy Foundation and formerly the vice chair of it. I can go on and I can actually totally use her whole speech time to talk about her affiliation. But more so, I think it's very much exciting that when we talk about PIT, when we talk about global development, to hear from the expert in this field. So a very warm welcome to our friend Katina.
Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. Team from across the world, welcome Galosirsate and every other language that is on this list. Hello. I would like to begin by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the land on which I meet with you, the Wadi Wadi people of the Dharawal country, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. I come to you from Gerringong, New South Wales in Australia, and I'm a bit nervous, but the place I come to you from is Gerringong, which means a fearful place, a place of peril in the Dharawal language of the Aboriginal people. And I want you to remember this, a place of peril. I come to you from a place of peril. What does that mean today? How do we turn this place of peril into a place of harmony, into a place of acceptance and a place of conjoinment together as we are connected on this amazing Zoom platform? Again, my name is Katina Michael. I have the great joy of being your first speaker, and I'd like to thank both Faheem Hussain and Jane Parmentier for their inspiration towards this wonderful event. Two people who represent to me the most honorable of traits in global development, namely humility. And without this trait, we cannot succeed in our mission, no matter what we do. And so as the program chair of this new Masters of Science in Public Interest Tech, and today from the inspiration of Faheem and Mary Jane, who are well known in the global development space, we co-join these two worlds, public interest technology and global development. And I will begin by plainly saying to you, socio-technical systems have been defined in the literature for almost 100 years. What are we talking about when we are saying public interest technology? Do we acknowledge hundreds of years of systems thinking, perhaps, and socio-technical systems, the interplay between society, technology, and the environment, both the physical and those stakeholders that exist in an ecosystem to coordinate towards ends, using means? And so when I was growing up in high school, global development, we used to talk about countries as lesser developed nations, as newly industrialized nations, as more developed. And we have come back to this term of respect of global development, independent of the nature of the development that is so different, even in the same nation state these days. We can have an urban center and a regional and rural location in the same nation, even in what we traditionally call more developed nations, that look quite different. We just have to look at the landscape in the United States, and we can juxtapose that against, say, something in Kenya, as opposed to a place in the Karen people on the Thai-Burma border. So socio-technical systems are these interplays. What is public interest tech? Well, it is technology, but I would say to you, it is not shiny gadgetry. It is processes. Even these products, ladies and gentlemen, are processes, processes of coordination, of connectivity, of connection, of coming together, all the C words you can think of in the positive frame. And public interest tech sits above that layer of socio-technical systems theory, socio-technical systems design, of co-design, of design thinking, and it imbues an ethos of care. In fact, it is a social movement. It is about listening. It's about respect. It's of being a learner and not a colonizer. It's about designing with people and communities in particular, and not for them. It is not about going into a location, a place, a location which is connected to a people's. It's not about going in there and then going out and never looking back. It is about sustained communications and doing that with humility. It is about empowering the other, empowering communities. It's about the use of information to grant freedom to the other from enslavement, particularly evil power structures. And it is about changing these power structures to grant control to communities again. And so it is about controlling and not being controlled by another, particularly government or particular economic systems. And it is about building new systems and not abandoning. I particularly look at the potential of these mega cities. Many of them are sprouting up. In fact, if I share slides just for a moment on this platform, I will show you the potential for the mega cities. I just make sure that's on view. And so what we have is this growing number, more than half of the world's population to live within a small circle, which I'll share with you. And understanding that our traditional view of things is going to change. We used to think of the urban centers, the rural centers. Well, what if I said to you more than half of the world's population will live within this circle that I identified to you on the screen? That there are 20 megacities in this corridor, of which 14 are sitting on river deltas and sinking, and 18 have experienced floods in the past decade. This is of the 20 megacities, 18 have experienced floods. How will information help us respond to this crisis? How will technology assist us in our plight? And we can see these world disaster reports, particularly within the Asian area and corridor, all of these earthquakes, floods, storms, heat waves, droughts. The question is, how can we mobilize as human beings using these powerful technologies through sophisticated processes to help local communities coordinate and respond to crises as they present themselves. The other question is whether we can avoid human-made disasters as opposed to those natural disasters. And so a simple example here is looking at the demands placed on these deltas. Look at this human-made disaster. Here's the Dutch-created canals in Jakarta, Indonesia, and 6 million people to 9 million, and now 28 million in this Jakarta zone. And we are building sensors, placing them on canals to give us some better information to understand when there is rubbish blocking canals and when perhaps the monsoon season will strike so poorly in a particular monsoonal period, say 6 times in 12 weeks, costing economic devastation to locations, not to mention people having to evacuate and return. This infrastructure that requires improvement, these canals that are continuously flooding local areas, and how people are coordinating and mobilizing through local opportunities. Finally, what I wish to do is to go back and leave you with some words that I left my students with. So I'll stop sharing. And this came from a class on public interest technology, PIT 502, co-designing the future. This is what I wrote to my students. The strange thing, my friends, you are listening, you are not speaking. And because you are being silent, you are giving the other a voice. Remember, tread carefully, their voice is precious. Hold it in your hands as if it was magic dust that constituted your own mother. Because that voice, it is a biometric and it is beautiful. The interplay between you and the stakeholder is unique. No two people could ever hope to reproduce that connection in just the same way. It can't come again just like that. And that connection can come with an animal or a tree stump or the ocean or the sun or a human being. But where you're standing right now and the way you are facing someone or something right now, it will never quite be the same again. Everything here is transient. This e-meeting, our jobs, the place we are at, all of us. Let's celebrate what we have, and one day we can say what we had and what will come that is still unknown to us. It's the ultimate best it could have been because it was us together, may it last till our last breaths. Giving a voice to someone who has lost their voice or thought that nobody cared about them is one of the most empowering things you could ever do in your life. And that is why co-design is so special. The invisible people, they become visible. The ones that have been harmed have a chance of recovery. The ones that were forgotten are remembered once again. The ones that were on the fringes are treated with the same respect as the ones who were at the center of the crowd. The ones who thought they were unloved are told you are important to me because you are breathing. And that is enough for me to bring you into my world, into our world. The one who was rejected, once again, is included. The ones who had to flee have found refuge and a place to call home. The ones that were sidelined are embraced and given the front row honor. The ones that don't look right are made to feel that they are whole again and perfect despite their ailments. The one who was told that they were ugly finds strength in their inner beauty. The ones that were bent at the hip and were crooked and limp again stand upright and tall and proud. The ones that considered that they would take their life away from themselves are made to understand that their life is the pinnacle of another's existence and that they just can't bail out because it would cause endless trauma to the ones who love them. The one who has had their hope taken from them is renewed afresh because of the other who extends their hand, and the one who can no longer trust that things will not blow up in their face, once again, will believe in something, though they never thought that would be possible again. Friends, we are here to restore each other again. Life is one giant restorative process. Who is out there that has not been hurt? But if I was to show you visually what I believe we are supposed to be doing for one another, it is this, friends, and I'll show you a short clip from a longer video, but we will only see a few seconds, just in the consciousness of time. It is this, friends, taken from footage in Tathra, New South Wales, where the Yuin people are, some 4 hours from where I am south. Friends, there is something so beautiful about this tree stump. In the background are the middens of the Aboriginal people on a remote location called Tathra. How will we respect these lands? How will we respect the people who were the traditional custodians and those communities that are now living there? But it is about finding our feet. Finally, I would like to say that stories are important because they help us to develop an understanding of the other. Who are they? Where did they come from? Why are they the way they are? What is special about them? What are the qualities about them? To discover one another is one of the greatest mysteries of life. I often say to my students, look into another's eyes, and there you will find eternity. Spiritual writers call this the window to the soul. We can never comprehensively know one another, no matter how well we think we know each other. Friends, that's what keeps us alive. That's what keeps us connecting, the hope that we can discover more about each other. When this journey is taken together, life becomes vibrant. We become alive. We love the other. We want to run as fast as we can. We want to shout out to the heavens in gratitude. We love the ant. We love the elephant. We love the ocean. We love the broken tree stump. We love the moon. We wish well for everyone around us, and we wish to empower everyone around us. And it's not about pity. It's not about having sympathy. It's not about just saying, oh, I'm sorry. It's about having empathy and having compassion. Not just I pity you, I'm sorry for you. People don't need our pity. Not just I feel for you, but wholeheartedly, I am with you every day of this journey. I will not leave you alone. I will not be like those humanitarian groups that go in and then leave and pull out and don't keep holding your hand and you holding mine. No, not for a moment. Even when we are apart, you are in my heart. I carry you everywhere. Even after the echo, everywhere, I carry you. So friends, please consider what I'm saying. We can change the world like this with stories. We ourselves will be transformed by learning as a result of our love for the other and our willingness to listen to the other who is different to us. Do we believe their stories? Then we must share them. But before we can share them, we need to learn them off by heart. We need to listen deeply. We need to uncover the right elements of that story, of which I call empathic intelligence. And discovery takes time. It's not just like a short archaeological dig. It's a long archaeological dig that takes place over a long time. And you just can't go at digging frantically because archaeology is delicate, and so are we with one another. And so I leave you with this mystery. Your discovery might well be more precious than gold because you will have uncovered the greatest thing there is to do in the world, which is connect with the heart of another. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this morning.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Katina. It's really something we need to look forward to and think deeply. And to move things forward, and before I think we open it up for Q&A, it will be wonderful if you can talk a bit more about what are we doing as a group in PIT, in ASU, to move things forward. If you can kindly say a bit more about the PIT program, your vision, and what are the things we're doing as a group, that would be wonderful. Then we open it up for Q&A.
We are listening to one another and we are getting real. We are getting authentic. We are saying what is in our heart. We are not being afraid to say things that matter or to reach people in ways that we have not done so before. I will not name names, but there are people in this group who have been part of Peace Corps groups and lived the experience and shared and learnt and imparted. There are groups that have been to refugee camps here and have lived and broken bread with refugees in their camps and also carried their illnesses as well as they recover. There are people here who have gone without clean drinking water for weeks, come back sick and recover in our school offices to ensure that they are able to teach their students what they learned when they were away. There are farmers here who have cultivated land which was not arable and taught people how to dig and put seeds in the ground. This is unique and is transdisciplinary. And every day I come to work, over the last 12 months, I have been doing night shift. Why is my heart so happy to be up at 1 o'clock in the morning? Because we are making a difference. We love each other. This is a big thing. Lo and behold, people love each other at ASU. Why is that so strange? Usually people in corporate locations or in other places, because of the cutthroat nature of academia, they're killing each other, trying to get, jealous of each other. We are not jealous. We're here to empower one another, empower our students. Our students are our leaders. I come to the office to hear them and to listen to them. And I break down most times thinking, where are these wonderful souls coming from that are sharing these incredible stories? Stories about gender violence, stories about rescuing sea lions, stories about how privacy is important and security is important to one's well-being, stories about alternative social banking mechanisms because cash is letting us down, time banking, love banking. What is this business? Do we have to give cash for our service? Can we just be pure in heart and be generous, and maybe someone will be generous back? And how will our community survive? How can we teach the Western democracies the other way? Age-old practices that are sustainable and could actually change the way megalopolises work in the future. I'm very concerned, ladies and gentlemen, for the highly dense urban areas and the vulnerability to technology systems. If you are on the 50th floor in a very small room and your sanitation gives on the 50th floor and your electricity gives, you go start walking down 50 flights of stairs. And then disease spreading and many other things. But I'm also concerned, and we will hear this many times over the coming days, I'm sure, is about the fact that when I was studying geography 35 years ago, we were talking about clean drinking water and we were talking about dysentery, and that these things still plague 75% of the world. This is what actually keeps me up at night. I don't know how to solve this problem, but it has to be in coordination with each other.
Thank you so much. So right now, we are opening up the floor for questions. So Ryan, how are we taking the questions in terms of it's through the chat, or are we speaking up?
People can feel free to share through the chat. If you'd like to be recognized and use your voice, please use the reactions button at the bottom of the screen, and you'll see a hand or a thumb, and then maybe Faheem can call upon you. Either way, thank you.
And I would say, since it's so quiet, feel free to just unmute and start talking.
No one ever likes to go first, so I'll just go for it. Vanessa Davis, I work for Octo, a technology firm in DC. We work with US federal government agencies to help them modernize their IT technology. And I am wondering, I used to work at ASU, first of all, for over a decade with the Global Institute of Sustainability. So I know Ryan and some of these folks very well. And I'm looking for ways for organizations like mine to plug into these solutions. We've got really bright technologists, working in issues of artificial intelligence, machine learning, data sciences, and they're already plugged in with government agencies that are tasked with, disaster management and other, serious issues that we talk about today. So I'm wondering, what opportunities there are for organizations like mine to partner with academia and government agencies, local and federal, not just in the US, but all over the world. I'd love to see this concept gain more traction. And I'd love to understand how I can support that at my own organization.
How wonderful. I head up the PIT program, and Mary Jane heads up the GTD program. Netra Chetri heads up the IGD program and global development, of course, and Mary Jane's global technology development. My PIT, it's all coalescing. We would love to partner with your organization. This is the empowering stuff that happens in groups like this when we mobilize resources. There's Eusebio Scornavaca online from the University of Baltimore, who also works with so many different nations with global development initiatives. And so many of you, I'm sorry, I don't know all of you, I hope to learn about you in the next 2 days, but Vanessa, we have applied projects, we have research teams, my research team in society policy engineering. We'd love to. And this is when we can come together in groups and maybe put forward a project. Maybe we'll specialize in the artificial intelligence space or in data science. How can we mobilize big data with social media, for example? With one of the projects I was involved in that I showed you in the slides with Peta Jakarta was the deployment of a social media app, which within 48 hours of deployment received 155,000 tweets. And Twitter said, what the heck is going on? What are you doing? And then we had an API linked to Twitter. It turns out that the Jakartans love to tweet. And so we got flood reports. This is the kind of thing that I think your organization would love to get involved with. Now that group has gone to MIT at the Risk Lab, has disbanded and gone to different places in the UK and Germany, but we are all still working towards this potentiality of how do you bring the big data together, a data-driven innovation solution in order to give something back to the people. So while they're tweeting, we're sensing, and it's not about tweeting like surveillance, like what did you eat for breakfast or what brand do you buy? It's about the things that matter. Like I'm in a flood, I'm up to here, or look, I've taken a picture and my house is showing a level of where the water has receded. Can I automatically detect that level through the image analysis? This is the kinds of things that are exciting and not about surveillance for harm, but they're for sensing. The live feeds that are coming through microblogging or sensing other data-driven opportunities. One thing that I'll caution there is how do we build in those mechanisms through socio-technical design and co-design, whereby we are asking the local communities, what do you need, and observing their needs, but also at what are the oversight mechanisms that we require. So when we're deploying these services, public interest tech is particularly there to empower the NGOs, the non-government organizations, the not-for-profits, the government agencies like the disaster response agencies, whether that's in our location in Australia, the State Emergency Services or Rural Fire Service, or whether it's first responders in coordination. That process, before we even touch tech, it's the process that we're distilling. And maybe our first thing, Vanessa, could be a project in GTD, a project in IGD, and a project in the PIT course, because we all have applied projects and other second year and first year milestones for the research students. But let's put it out there to them, like AI, data science, just give us a long list and say, in response to floods, in response to fires, in response to food security, in response to fisheries, whatever it is, we are so excited to be working with groups like yours. Thank you. And academic mentors, we want external mentors coming into our program. Netra and Mary Jane, would you have something to add?
No, I would agree with you, Katina, and I appreciate the question, Vanessa. And our students need practical experience. They look for internships. They look for, projects to work on. But then also funding opportunities come along where we need partnerships between academia and NGOs and private companies, government.
Let me also add on that. I've also put in the chat to just let me summarize. If you are looking at solving the complex global problem with the academic, towards the academia, you're probably fooling yourself too. This complex problem cannot be solved through the lens of the expertise, which is what we have been doing for the last 300 years or so. And in fact, the problems are getting even worse. And so I think I do not want to discourage you to look and seek expertise, but I'll also encourage you to not overlook your own expertise as well. Every people on earth, especially the one living in very marginal areas, such as the slums, cramped buildings, or harsh environment, they do have their own expertise to survive and thrive in that setting. How about learning together, where you bring your expertise and the academia also give their hands and their expertise, and blending this together to make the next big steps. And it hurts me, everywhere we go, they think that we have the solution, and that I could be very proud. Yes, I have the solution for the world, but it depressed me. I don't, as Katina said, we don't have the answer, but together we can have an answer. So that's my sort of 2 cents here.
This is fascinating. Okay. Thank you so much. So Kat, you have been waiting patiently for so many minutes. Thank you so much. Please share your thoughts. Yeah.
Okay, so I just actually also wanted to bring in a bit of on the ground grassroots, or as somebody I work with on the ground and grassroots today, use the word in the trenches. Because I think it's very easy for people like us to sit here and talk about what we think we know is going on. And I did share on the chat an article that me and Nomvula, who works with me with a nonprofit here in South Africa, an article about what we call the digital blind spot. So no disrespect to the keynote speaker about talking about the power of Twitter and how it can kind of help people. But when you have the vast majority of your population not even on Twitter, not even connected, not even believing that the internet is relevant to them, and in South Africa, 37% of the population do not believe the internet is relevant to them, then we've got a bigger problem. We've got a bigger problem about opening a door so that these really marginalized majority can actually start to take advantage of what we do take for granted. And it's very easy to forget that we don't know what it is that we don't know. And yet we have a majority of the population in the world out there who do not know what it is that we know about the power of digital. So I actually really wanted to share that and bring that back to the table. So rather than a question, it's kind of like, great, let's partner, let's share, let's bring academia and nonprofits and people who are working in this space together to try and make a difference. But most importantly, which was also mentioned, let's actually bring the 37%, for example, in South Africa who don't think this is relevant to them. Let's bring them into the story. But in reality, that doesn't happen because interventions are always top down. They certainly are here. They are top down, funding is top down, and they don't get to looking. And when they do, they are told what the story is. So I'm putting that out there. What can we actually realistically do to change that?
So Katina, very quick reply to this amazing question. Then we have Sarah Abu Ibrahim and then Jumoke Oladele.
Yes, first to say to Kath, spot on. Spot on. When we looked at Jakarta, it was ripe for the interjection of social media. And it was working. The BPD, the local metropolitan planning community and authority were harnessing actually our maps. I can show you visually, and I'll send some of those slides actually on a link in a moment. It was working. It still is working. But I would say definitely what you're talking about is real. I mean, in different situations, I also think about carers of individuals living with disability and having firsthand experience of in the trenches means that we can talk from a place of safety and security about these AI initiatives and other things. But the actual fact is, most people don't have clean drinking water and have to walk, 20 kilometers to get clean drinking water, or don't feel safe in their homes, or don't have homes. They're homeless, or have children with who have passed under 5 years of age due to dysentery or some other illness. That's the reality. And this is the authentic side we have to get back to. And the more attention we have to place on these nations and these places that could even be in the US. It doesn't mean that they're all in Africa, but certainly when we look at the disparities between Africa, parts of Asia and South America, my goodness me, that's the first thing. Acknowledgement of what's going on. It's just like the acknowledgement of people who are looking after severely disabled children or cognitively impaired parents or family. And what resources, who's looking after them? How is a software bot going to help somebody who's caring for a child who has dyspraxic autism and is hitting the walls every 3 seconds? That's the reality. We don't have that, Kath. I'm very appreciative that you brought that up this morning.
I also just quickly also want to share that here in the reality is that there are millions who have smartphones, but probably use it just for Facebook and WhatsApp. They're not aware what the internet is. They're certainly not aware of the power of digital beyond those very simple tools. And so there, and that's not really being addressed either. The assumption is you leap from knowing very little to working on a computer, and that's not a reality.
Yes, or addiction, gaming and gambling addiction, as Eusebio has actually placed on the internet and shown that.
So.
Yes, Kath.
This is fascinating, and I actually think we can continue this sort of conversation in our breakout sessions and breakout rooms as well, where we have it. We have 2 more very quickly. I think we need to have these comments. First, I'll go to Sarah, and then it's Jimoka.
Yeah, thank you, Faheem. Added to what has been discussed, there is a problem that we always approach things from the technological perspective and not from the people on spot. What is the main issues that they are facing? I mean, I'm currently coordinating a program for AI in my country, and at the same time, I teach teachers in service who have spent like 12 years in teaching or more, but they don't know how to use Microsoft Word. They don't know the basics of what it comes into technology. And these teachers have access to internet, they have access to computers. They are not, this is not the problem, it's just the poverty, but there is a kind of awareness that is missing. Like if I mention AI or machine learning in front of them, they won't definitely relate because they have already no idea how to start with the minimum basics. So that's why I'm trying to put my comment here. How can we help in collaboration with ASU to maybe tackle this problem and help people gain this digital awareness and being capable to deal with the world right now, and maybe later on they can be able to go with the flow when it comes to AI and machine learning and all the technologies. Thank you.
What a brilliant comment, Sarah. Human-centered design, user-centered, inspired, not use-inspired, user-centered, human-centered, not use-inspired. This is the in thing with design thinking, use-inspired. No. Human-centered design. And we are talking about media literacy, because without media literacy, Zuckerberg flying into Africa and going, look, I've come with 1 laptop per child means nothing. Can I eat the laptop? No, because it's not tasty, right? It will not fill my stomach so I can think. So I need to fill my stomach first, then I can think. Then I can learn to touch type. Then I could learn to switch on the computer and use Microsoft Word while I'm learning a language. But most of us don't have this flexibility. So yes, that is what we need to do. And I'm going to argue not just for the developing, and that's the wrong word to use, but not just for global development movement, but for the first nation states that claim to have all the gadgetry the smartwatches tethering, but are illiterate. This is a global problem. We have people, as we said with the previous speaker, using Facebook and gaming and sophisticated virtual reality headsets, but they can't use Microsoft Word and they can't concentrate because of the persuasive design that's happening and encouraging addiction or gambling or other triggers that we should discuss as we progress. But Sarah, human-centered, I take that from you. I'm sorry I didn't mention that. Not use-inspired. What do people need? They tell us, as is what Netra said, the communities empower us. And Faheem, to the last question.
Yes,
Thank you.
I wish we could just stretch the time with a time machine, but yes, you're okay.
Jumoke.
Jumoke was last, I believe, Faheem.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
But yeah, I think we still have it.
We can.
Thank you for the very fine keynote speaker. Thank you to the keynote speaker for the very inspiring speech. Of course, the panel has also brought to our realities that also still new to the moment. Can you hear me now?
Yes, a bit broken, but thank you for the thank you. I understood this. Yes, but we can hear you broken. Yes, go ahead.
So I think.
Okay. So
Yeah.
however, just like
That's the reality. That's the reality we have when we have questions, but unfortunately, then we get stifled by this, not so smart technologies. It would be wonderful if Jumoke, can you kindly put it in your chat? And Ryan, we are out of time, or can I give Phyllis 30 seconds to ask her question?
Thank you. Mine is not really a question, but it's a comment. And this comment is really about trying to understand the people's cultural background and their comfort levels. Because I think most of the times we think about people lacking the capacity and we focus on that. But we also have to be thinking about the comfort levels and their cultural experiences. I would give an example of we've been in COVID-19 and I was doing some research in Africa and I was talking about knowledge management and other things. It was surprising that I was talking to people who were responsible for managing various knowledge management systems in their countries, but they complained that they cannot handle being online. They cannot handle doing everything online. They cannot handle having trainings online. They want to be in person. So these are things that are very important in as much as we want to talk about AI, we want to talk about technology, but we also have to think about how these people are comfortable. What are they comfortable with learning? And how do we embed that? Because we cannot lose that human touch. I come from Africa and I know that that social touch is very important. I go to a meeting not because I just want to listen to somebody speak, but I want to connect with somebody. So that is also something that I think as we're moving forward, we have to be mindful and see how best we can incorporate that while not losing what the people really value.
Amen, fellas. Amen. It reminds me when I tell my students, we cannot be at arm's length. This is what we are doing. Mostly we are building for. You're the user, you're the community. I don't care about your culture. You're over there. One product, one process fits everybody. That's why I can have economies of scale and I can make a lot of money, profit maximization and sales maximization. No, we need the communities to be empowered to learn together in their cultural, natural setting. And when I say this, I know how many decades this is going to take. It's not an overnight job, but the more we are able to share, we can empower the community to build for themselves, to retain the data for themselves, to use the phones in the ways that they want and maybe not want. If I don't want all the knowledge to be stored online through knowledge management systems, maybe in my culture, it's oral tradition. which has been the age-old way. Before the internet came along, before phones came along, we met in person. But the liberating thing of having this opportunity for collaboration is what we are doing today, coming together as a concerned community to share, because we are being empowered by the tech. So yes, fellas, we need to know that culture is everything. It's the foundations of the ethical understanding, of the moral gauge of how the practices actually work and what works. It is no good for me to build for you if I don't understand your culture or your community, but if I build together with you, I can empower you, and then you can create your own systems. Although this is going to take, I would say, at least 50 years if we are honest about doing this the right way together. So thank you, and sorry for taking up more time for him.
No. It's a very valuable like set of conversations, and we do have a networking session after our breakout sessions, and within the breakout session we also have time to converse on these kind of things. Thank you so much. The others, I'm really sorry, Suzanne, we have to move on, but please share your question in the chat room, and we can definitely get back to you on this. And Jumuke, you too. And Ryan, off to you.
Thank you, Faheem, and thank you to Katina Michael on behalf of everyone. Very powerful words. Now we will allow you to choose a room. There are 2 breakout rooms. There's room A and room B, as you see on the screen. Each room will have 2 20-minute sessions, approximately 10 minutes presentation, and then approximately 10 minutes question and answer, followed by a very brief break. And then the next group will immediately launch into a 20-minute presentation with 10 minutes of presentation, 10 minutes of Q&A. You will be provided with a 1-minute warning when we are about to return to this room, which will be at the bottom of the next hour. So very shortly now, you should see an option of A or B, and please make a selection. Again, please make a selection now. The main room will not have any content being delivered. All content for the next 40 minutes will be in breakout room. Thank you.
Mom? Yes, what they call it.